The United States government did not just ban these 10 Japanese cars, they actively hunted them down. Welcome to Ultimate Machinery. Today we are cutting the nonsense and looking straight at 10 absolute JDM monsters that the EPA and NHTSA declared completely illegal. Forget modern electronic driving aids. These are pure raw mechanical giant slayers. They embarrassed American V8 muscle cars and shattered the infamous 276 horsepower gentleman's agreement. We are counting down the ultimate forbidden fruit of the 1990s, ending with a pavement-shredding Godzilla that the feds actually crushed into solid cubes. Now, hit subscribe and let us uncover exactly what they hid from you. Starting off our list at number 1 is the ultimate giant slayer, the 1987 Daihatsu Charade GT Ti. Now I know exactly what you are thinking right now. A Daihatsu. Really? But do not let the badge fool you. Back in the late 1980s, while American automakers were struggling to squeeze power out of choked-down V8 engines, Daihatsu engineers created a tiny turbocharged monster that defied all logic. This little hatchback was officially the first production car to hit the magic number of 100 horsepower per liter from a 1.0-liter 3-cylinder engine. It featured a twin-cam, 12-valve setup with a highly aggressive turbocharger bolted directly onto it. Pushing out just about 100 horsepower might not sound like a massive number today. However, in a stripped-down car that weighed barely over 1,700 pounds, the power-to-weight ratio was borderline psychotic. On the tight, twisting mountain passes of Japan, this featherweight brawler could easily outcorner and completely embarrass heavy American sports cars. It offered a pure, visceral driving experience, letting you feel every single bump in the rough road. You could clearly hear the distinct high-pitched whine of the turbo spooling up right behind the dashboard. Sadly, the United States government wanted absolutely nothing to do with it. The NHTSA regulators looked at this ultra-light track toy and immediately slammed the heavy door shut. It lacked the massive, heavy crash bumpers and stringent safety equipment required for American highways. For decades, the Charade remained a forbidden legend, a ghost on American roads, proving you did not need 8 cylinders to build an absolute rocket. Moving to number 2, we have the car that literally forced the Japanese government to change the law forever, the 1987 Suzuki Alto Works RSR. In the world of K-cars, those tiny, strictly regulated Japanese commuter vehicles, this Alto Works was an absolute unapologetic rule breaker. Suzuki decided to take their mundane, everyday city car and inject it with pure motorsport adrenaline. They gave it a dual overhead cam, turbocharged 3-cylinder F5A engine, but they certainly did not stop there with the extreme mechanical modifications. They paired that highly aggressive power plant with a highly sophisticated all-wheel drive system, turning it into a micro-rally car. This little beast was so insanely fast and delivered power so violently that the Japanese Ministry of Transport completely panicked. It was capable of hitting redline in a fraction of a second, shifting through gears with incredible speed. Because of the Alto Works, the government stepped in and established the strict 64 horsepower legal limit for all K cars moving forward, desperately trying to contain the absolute madness. Suzuki built a car so chaotic and wild it birthed a nationwide regulation. Of course, the EPA and NHTSA in America took one look at this all-wheel drive pocket rocket and laughed out loud. It was entirely too small to meet United States crash standards, and the exhaust emissions profile did not align with federal mandates. It was banned instantly. Today, American collectors who know their automotive history are desperately hunting these down, paying premium auction prices just to experience this terrifying, historically significant thrill ride. At number 3, we step up to the featherweight street brawler, the 1996 Toyota Starlet Glanza 5. If you grew up reading import tuner magazines in the late 1990s, you know exactly what this machine is capable of. Toyota, the company famous worldwide for building highly reliable but somewhat boring family commuters, decided to build a psychotic little hatchback with a massive attitude problem. They dropped a 1.3-liter turbocharged 40 FTE engine under the hood, and it was an absolute mechanical revelation. The Glanza 5 was designed with one core philosophy: keep the chassis incredibly light and give it maximum boost. Weighing in at just over 2,000 pounds when the turbo finally kicked in, it delivered a violent surge of rapid acceleration that would pin you right back into the driver's seat. Enthusiasts figured out very quickly that with just a larger intercooler and a manual boost controller, this tiny Toyota could produce staggering horsepower numbers. It became the ultimate street sleeper, terrorizing much larger, heavier sports cars from stoplight to stoplight. But why did we never get this legendary hatchback in America? Because the United States market in 1996 was heavily obsessed with massive size and huge V8 engines. Toyota USA did not think Americans wanted a high-performance subcompact, and the strict federal regulators made sure the cost of crash testing it was impossibly high. Therefore, it was heavily banned under the 25-year rule, leaving United States driving enthusiasts to only dream of its pavement-shredding potential and its incredibly pure raw mechanical driving connection. Number 4 on our list is an absolute unicorn. A car so completely bizarre and beautiful that it became the NHTSA regulator's absolute worst nightmare, the 1992 AutoZam AZ1. Imagine taking the raw, passionate soul of a high-end Italian supercar, shrinking down to the exact size of a golf cart, and strapping a massive turbocharger directly to it. That is the AZ1 in a nutshell. Designed in close partnership with Mazda, this mid-engine rear-wheel drive micro supercar featured a tubular space frame construction. Most famously, it featured those massive, dramatic fiberglass gull-wing doors that flipped up just like a DeLorean. Driving the AZ1 was an unfiltered, terrifyingly direct, and highly visceral experience. You sat mere inches off the ground, tightly gripping a steering wheel that commanded a steering ratio quicker than most modern professional race cars. Right behind your head screamed a Suzuki-sourced turbocharged engine, revving all the way up to the moon. It was an absolute masterpiece of mechanical purity, completely devoid of any electronic safety nets whatsoever. It demanded absolute, unwavering respect from the driver at all times, and that is exactly why the United States federal government banned it without hesitation. The rigid, unforgiving crash test metrics of the American regulators were fundamentally incompatible with the AZ1's lightweight fiberglass outer shell. There was absolutely zero chance this mid-engine marvel was ever passing strict federal safety standards. For 25 long years, this gull-wing masterpiece was locked completely out of America, forcing enthusiasts to wait decades just to see one of these legends in person. At number 5, we shift gears to a car with a severe dual personality. The ultimate sleeper, the 1996 Toyota Chaser Tourer 5, widely known as the JZX100. At first glance, this vehicle looks exactly like a polite conservative four-door family sedan. It looks like the kind of safe, reliable car a middle management corporate executive would drive to the office every single day. But underneath that incredibly boring, unassuming exterior lurked the dark, sinister heart of a legendary high-powered drift monster just waiting to be unleashed. The 1996 JZX100 was factory-equipped with the truly legendary 1JZ GTE engine, newly upgraded with Toyota's advanced VVTi technology. This 2.5-liter single-turbo inline-six is arguably one of the greatest, most durable engines Toyota ever produced. It is easily capable of handling massive amounts of extra horsepower on completely stock internals. Paired with a finely tuned rear-wheel drive chassis, the Chaser was not just a sedan, it was a high-speed, tire-smoking weapon of absolute mass destruction on the drift track. Listen. The aggressive sound of that 1JZ engine aggressively bouncing off the rev limiter is pure automotive music to any car enthusiast. The United States absolutely never saw the Chaser because Toyota already had the luxury Lexus brand firmly established in America. They did not want this aggressive, turbocharged hooligan stealing sales from their premium luxury lineup. And the EPA had zero interest in certifying the 1JZ for American emissions. It was completely left in Japan to heavily dominate the underground drifting scene. Number 6 brings us to a highly controversial legend, the 1996 Honda Integra Type R, specifically the true DC2 JDM version. Now, I know some of you are shouting at your screens right now saying, wait a minute, we definitely got the Integra Type R in America. Yes, we got a heavier, watered-down version featuring those distinct bug-eye headlights. But the true, pure, absolutely forbidden JDM Type R, with the sleek, aggressive one-piece headlights and the uncompromised razor-sharp chassis tuning, it was strictly banned. It was locked away from our American shores for a quarter of a century. This specific car is widely considered the holy grail of front-wheel drive performance. At its beating heart was the B18C engine, a naturally aspirated 1.8-liter mechanical masterpiece, featuring incredibly smooth hand-ported cylinders straight from the factory. When you hit exactly 5,700 revolutions per minute, the legendary VTEC crossover engages. With a mechanical scream that sounds exactly like a high-performance superbike, tearing violently down the front straight of a racetrack. However, it was an incredibly raw driving experience. Honda engineers ruthlessly removed all the heavy sound deadening, installed thinner window glass, and stripped the entire car down to its absolute bare essence to maximize cornering speed. So here is the highly controversial question for our comment section down below. Is the B18C in this JDM Integra truly the greatest naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine ever built? Or do the American V8 guys think it is just an overhyped toy? Drop your thoughts below right now. Below. Coming in at number 7 is a vehicle built on pure nostalgia. If you played the Gran Turismo video game on your PlayStation, this specific car was undoubtedly your ultimate hero. The 1999 Nissan Silvia Spec R, also known as the S15. This is the undisputed reigning king of the global drift scene, a car whose highly aggressive styling and absolutely perfect physical proportions still look incredibly modern and sleek today. The S15 was the ultimate, highly refined pinnacle of Nissan's highly legendary S-chassis development lineage. Under the beautifully sculpted hood was the legendary SR20 DET engine, a 2.0-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder that produced a factory-claimed 250 horsepower. But that initial number was just the very beginning. The SR20 was built incredibly tough. It allowed aftermarket tuners to easily bolt on much bigger turbos and push massive amounts of boost. Combined with a heavily reinforced 6-speed manual transmission and a helical limited slip differential, the Silvia Spec R was an absolute masterclass in controlled high-speed oversteer. It was literally built from the ground up to go completely sideways at over 100 miles per hour, so exactly why was it slapped with a federal ban? The EPA absolutely despised the dirty emissions profile of the late-model SR20 DET, and Nissan USA had already heavily committed to selling the Altima and Maxima to everyday Americans. The massive financial cost of altering the S15 to meet strict United States federal mandates was simply way too high. Number 8 on our list of extremely forbidden fruit is a car of immense mechanical character and rapidly skyrocketing financial value, the 1992 Honda NSX-R, chassis code NA1. The standard NSX was already a spectacular world-beater, a brilliant mid-engine exotic whose brilliant chassis dynamics were famously refined with direct input from the late Formula One legend Ayrton Senna. But the ultra-rare NSX-R? That was a completely different savage animal entirely. It took Senna's solid foundation and amplified it significantly. It was transformed into an uncompromising, deeply hardcore track weapon. Honda took their beautiful, highly comfortable supercar and ruthlessly stripped it down to the absolute bare metal. They aggressively threw out the heavy sound deadening material, the air conditioning system, the heavy stereo, and even the spare tire just to save precious weight. They installed ultra-rigid carbon Kevlar racing seats and significantly stiffened the entire suspension system. directly to professional race car specifications. The high-revving 3.0-liter V6 engine was meticulously blueprinted and perfectly balanced entirely by hand. This obsessive engineering resulted in a throttle response so incredibly sharp and precise, it felt directly wired to your human brain. It was pure, terrifying, absolute mechanical perfection. America unfortunately never got the NSXR. The NHTSA required specific heavy bumper reinforcements and safety equipment that Honda absolutely refused to bolt onto their lightweight masterpiece. Today, these cars are considered absolute automotive royalty. If you find a real NA1 NSXR on an auction site today, prices soar. We are finally down to number 9, and it is time to talk about the truly great lie of the 1990s. The 2002 Mazda RX-7 Spirit R, chassis code FD3S. During this specific era, Japanese automakers had a very strict gentleman's agreement to officially limit all their performance cars to a maximum of 276 horsepower. It was supposed to stop a highly dangerous escalating horsepower war. The Mazda RX-7 Spirit R completely, beautifully, and aggressively ignored that. The Spirit R was the ultimate, spectacular, final, ultra-exclusive edition of the FD Generation RX-7, heavily limited to just 2,500 units for the Japanese market only. It was powered by the highly legendary 13B Ryu sequential twin-turbo rotary engine. When that massive second turbo finally engaged, the sudden surge of forward power was deeply violent, and the screaming sound of that rotary engine rapidly revving toward an 8,000 RPM redline is something every true car enthusiast desperately needs to hear. Look at this. While Mazda proudly claimed exactly 276 horsepower on official paper, anyone who actually put a Spirit R on a mechanical dyno knew it was easily pushing way over 300. The EPA completely hated the rotary engine. The exhaust emission standards in the United States had tightened so severely over the years that the Spirit R, with its aggressively tuned rotary power plant, had absolutely zero chance of ever passing strict federal testing, making it totally illegal on American roads forever. And finally, we have reached number 10, the ultimate highly anticipated cliffhanger revealed at last. The specific car that was so dominant, the United States federal government actively hunted down and completely crushed illegal imports into metal cubes. The 1995 Nissan Skyline GTR, Generation R33. They famously called it Godzilla, and for very good reason. It was an absolute monster born directly on the racetrack. That completely shattered existing production car speed records at the grueling and highly dangerous Nürburgring circuit in Germany. The R33 GTR was a stunning technological marvel that was easily 10 full years ahead of absolutely anything Detroit automakers were building at the time. It was powered by the truly legendary RB26 twin-turbo inline-6 engine, another incredible car that openly laughed in the face of the 276 horsepower limit. But the true, undeniable magic was the Atessa ETS advanced all-wheel drive system. It was an incredibly complex, highly advanced computer that could instantly shift mechanical power between the wheels. This system operated in mere milliseconds. It allowed the massive R33 to violently grip the pavement and aggressively launch out of corners with terrifying, neck-snapping violence. Because it was absolutely never officially crash-tested or emission-certified for the United States, federal agents actively seized any R33 models that were illegally smuggled into the country during the infamous import crackdowns. It was not just banned, it was totally criminalized. Today, finally free of the 25-year curse, the R33 GTR proudly roams American streets as the ultimate automotive king. There you have it. 10 legendary Japanese automotive monsters that totally terrified the United States government and completely defied the laws of physics. Which one of these extremely forbidden legends would you actually risk federal impoundment just to drive for one single day? Do you firmly agree that the B18C is the absolute greatest naturally aspirated engine ever built? Or are you a heavily loyal V8 muscle guy? Sound off in the comments section below. If you love this deep dive, aggressively hit that subscribe button